Nathan Payne joins me here today. You could learn what his team is up to. Head over to painlessflipping.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. We're going to kind of get in the weeds here today. This is going to be your episode if you're looking to get into wholesaling, flipping, that type of activity, because I think it's about time we kind of reveal the amount of work and effort that actually goes into this type of thing. I really appreciate your
Yeah.
time, Nathan.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about what it actually takes because I think a lot of people get into this business thinking they can get rich quick overnight, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, in fact, I grew up in a time where that late night programming was just promising mailbox money. It was just going to be getting into real estate is so easy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. Well, let's start there. If people go to Painless Flipping, they're going to see you provide quite a few resources. They can schedule a quick call there. But just because of the economy and where you see things right now, what are you seeing most people doing? Are they doing the flipping, the wholesaling, the novation? What are the trends right now?
You know what? I'm still seeing a lot of wholesale deals being done, especially a lot of people are wary of flipping, right? They don't want to get into that. So they wholesale more. And then they have the consistent guys that are willing to flip. They have crews and they just buy at the right price. So I still see tons of flips going on, just offers that make sense, right? Not like back in the day during the pandemic where people were just trying to get deals because the inventory was low. But no, I still see deals being done. That's the thing with wholesaling, right? Is we deal with people that are in distress, mainly needing convenience, speed, or ease. So I think that's something that will never go away, right? Like death, divorce, debt, like those are the 3 Ds. There's always going to be those opportunities. So to answer your question, is I still see wholesaling, I still see fix and flips going on.
Well, wholesaling has kind of been that darling. Yeah, I don't know what else to call it when you get into real estate investing. Everybody's been told that that's where they, get into this, no money down, easy peasy. Let's unravel some of
Yeah.
that. Do you still think
Yeah.
that's the case? Like that's where people typically should consider if they don't have the money?
I would still say it's a great place to start because that's how I got started. I didn't have any money, so I just had to hustle and grind and find opportunities and then negotiate those deals, right? So I think it's a great way for anyone to start because there is not a lot of barrier to entry. It's not very high. It does take the work. And I think that's the issue is the people, they're like, "Oh, okay, well, I can get in with no cash credit. Like I can just get in." Yes, you can, but are you willing to do the work? And if you are willing to do the work, do you understand how to convert those deals or those opportunities that you have? So, yeah, I would say that it is the best place to start, in my opinion. But I think the understanding of what it actually is required to succeed is not a lot of people understand.
Well, would you mind giving us kind of a breakdown?
Yeah. So when I work with clients in my apprenticeship, we tell them that this is a marketing and sales business, right? You have to go find opportunities, right? So you have to prospect. And if you don't have money to market, then you have to do the marketing yourself. You have to do the work. You have to knock doors. You have to call. You have to text. You have to do that work, right? But if you do have money, then you can pay for pay-per-clicks. You can pay per lead. You can do a lot of marketing that will bring in inbound leads. So there's less work. But if you don't have that money in the beginning, and actually, we recommend that people do a little bit of the grind in the beginning so they learn the process versus spending money after leads and they don't have the skill set to convert them. So, in the day of a life of a new wholesaler, you're going to have to hit the phones, you're going to have to talk to sellers, you're going to have to make offers, you're going to have to understand situations. And it's going to be like that for a couple months, unless you align yourself with someone that has that experience and they can kind of navigate and guide you.
Mhm. So let's say somebody is going to do this. Let's talk a little bit about the amount of heavy lifting. Like
Mhm.
you don't have any kind of budget. You're going to be dialing for dollars. You're trying to find that first opportunity. How many people are they going to be talking to find that one opportunity?
It's a great question. So it really depends on their strategy, right? Because like a lot of people will do they'll get like a dialer, right? And then they'll just put a list of like 5,000 people and they'll have to like really go through a lot of opportunities, right? Let's just say they pull absentee owners, that's like tired landlords, people that own rentals, and they just dial looking for that person that doesn't want to own a rental. You're gonna have to talk to quite a few people to find that opportunity of that person that is like, hey, I don't want to own my property anymore. So you'd have to do more if you did that. Now, what I recommend for people that I work with is to go more niche in the beginning with those lists, like looking for out of state pre-foreclosures, people that own rentals that they're not making their payments on, and that's a smaller list. But you're going to have to really dial in and reach out to those people continuously because they're probably getting bombarded. But it's less people you have to talk to because it's a smaller niche list, but it's going to require more effort because there's probably more competition on that list. So to answer, it's not I can't give you like a solid answer because it depends on your strategy, right? It's going to be less if you go more niche.
Well, I think you did reveal kind of a number there. I mean, you're talking about thousands of dials
Oh yeah, thousands of
over
dollars.
yeah. That's just one of those things I think has been interesting. I get phone calls all the time from young wholesalers who are getting into this and they want to learn my buy box. And then I really never hear back from them. I don't know what they expected, what was going to happen at that point.
New wholesalers that asking someone for their buy box before they have an opportunity is kind of pointless because you could just go out and talk to a bunch of buyers, get their buy boxes, and you might give up in like a week, right? Or you might never find an opportunity that meets their criteria in that person. So find the opportunity and then use like technology, use software to find those buyers that are close to the opportunity you have to dispo your deal, to sell your deal.
Sure. So are you doing that for finding a majority of your deals today, cold calling and that type of thing? Or are you doing direct mail, pay per click? What are you using to find these opportunities?
Yeah, so we actually we have an apprenticeship program. It's not like a mentorship or a coaching program. It's more of like a done for you service where we like partner with people that want to work with us and we do deals with them. So we basically leverage people that want to learn this business and we work with them and partner with them. Or if they don't want to partner with us on a deal, we'll just tell them what to do. And we get deals by telling them to do pre-foreclosures, to go after the niche lists like probate, pre-foreclosure, and pay per lead. So that's what we're doing is the niche lists and paying for leads.
Okay. Talk about this apprenticeship a little bit more. What like you actually partner with them in what way? Do you providing that education and direction as
Yeah.
they're working
So
through their deal?
yeah, exactly. So the reason why I started getting into education is I always wanted like the mentor I was paying for, the coaching program I was paying for. I wanted that person I was paying for to like help me specifically on these deals. And then after paying like upwards of like $100,000 in coaching, I soon realized that none of these programs are set up, or at least I didn't join any where they're set up to like work with you. They're just set up to give you videos, education, and answer questions with a group of people like once a week, right? So I was like, that's not what I've ever wanted. And after talking to many people, like that's not really what anyone wants either. Like that's just what they get after purchasing the product. They want someone to kind of walk them through the deal. They want someone to help them. So the apprenticeship is literally what I wanted and what I would say most people expect in a mentorship is someone to help them with the deal. And what we do in the apprenticeship is we set you up. We tell you how to generate the leads. You generate the leads, and then you submit a lead to us, and you say, what should I do?" And we provide a deal roadmap, and we say, "Hey, this is what you should do. This is the ARV. This is how I'd structure the offer." And if if they decide to do it themselves, all good. We tell them exactly what to do. And if they want to partner with us and have us talk to the seller, negotiate the deal, find the buyer, do all the heavy lifting, we'll do it for them. We'll partner on the deal at that point. And we'll split the deal.
It's interesting because like you said, it's kind of like one of the number one requests that you probably see is, what do I say? Like everybody's looking for those scripts.
Yeah, and even if they know exactly what to say, there's just so many nuances like with what will happen if the seller says this. You've been in real estate for a long time and so have I, and it's just like most of the reason the times I see people aren't doing deals is they're just not experienced enough. They're like missing out on deals to maybe someone who has the experience and the seller just feels more comfortable with them. So when I've seen so much of that, I'm like, man, I honestly, I probably need to just hop in this deal and get it done for you or help you out because you've never had this conversation before. And even if I tell you exactly what to say, there's going to be some things that happen, right? And I have tons of stories about how this shakes out, but that's why we have the apprenticeship.
Yeah. Well, would you mind sharing a story or two? Like
Yeah, of course.
I'd love to hear about some successes with some of your students.
Yeah, so let me give you an example. So Carl is one of the people in our apprenticeship, and he's targeting pre-foreclosures. About a week before his family goes to the auction, they reach out to Carl and they're like, "Hey, we're about to lose our house. It's going to auction on Monday. Can you help us?" So Carl has an opportunity, right? But does Carl really know what to do? Not necessarily, right? Like they're about to go to auction. Like, is it too late? So I say, "Hey, Carl, just sign an agreement with them saying that we'll buy their house in 30 days. And, this is how you fill out the paperwork." And the house was, like we didn't have it open at title. We didn't know what they owed. So like I told them exactly what to put on the paper, the contract. So it would make sense. They filled it out. We sent it to the attorney on Monday, and I told Carl to call the attorney and tell him like, "Hey, can you stop the sale? Like we're going to purchase this property," and the sale was stopped and didn't go to auction. And just in that scenario itself, like the Carl wouldn't really know what to do. Even if I told him, it was like too many steps, right? Too many steps involved. If I was just like, "Hey, do this," like I actually got in there and helped them fill out the contract. So that's just like one
Yeah.
one thing. So it stopped. We were able to stop it. And so what I told Carl to do is I said, "Hey, tell them like we'll buy their house in 30 days. But if they can figure out how to deal with, a loan modification or figuring out how to stay there, like obviously we're not going to kick them out of their house. We want to help them." So we helped them with that process. We had to show the house to some cash buyers so we could be ready. She doesn't really want to sell the house. She wants to keep it. There's just so many things that, like, if you're new and you're telling the seller, like, "Hey, I'm going to buy your house," and you do not have a buyer yet, then it can get tricky. But what we told her is we're like, "Hey, we are planning on buying it. We work with partners in the area. We don't live there. We need to send people through." So even the conversation with the seller and setting the right expectations, like there's just, I don't know how else to say it than it takes a lot of experience to do deals like these, or you're going to get yourself in some sticky situations.
Yeah. Now, pre-foreclosures is something that's a blind spot for me in the fact that I've run into a number of people that are pre-foreclosure. They call us. There's obviously that they're in the situation and we're in the situation we could help them. But for some weird reason, I've yet to close on one of these. Like they will lose their house to the bank before they sold it to me. And I just don't know what I'm missing here.
the Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of them that are in pre-foreclosure are in the situation they're in because they're slow to take action, right? They're like, they haven't made payments. Maybe they haven't made payments for years and they think, it's not going to happen. And then eventually it does happen. That's kind of the situation with the seller too. It's been 2 or 3 years that this has been happening. Now, I bet it just hasn't, for a lot of people, it just isn't real until it happens. So I think they think it's just not going to happen, unfortunately
Mm,
for them, and then they lose it, right?
mm.
And it's hard to get them to trust you, a person they've never worked with before, to be like, "Hey, this is really happening. You need to act quick." But, unfortunately, that happens all the time. They just lose their house.
Yeah. It's just really perplexing. I get it to a certain extent because they're going through so much at that particular moment. They're not actually, this isn't a logical situation at this point. This is
Oh,
completely emotional.
yeah. Most of the time, selling, like when we deal with people as wholesalers or people that are in distressed situations, it's always emotional, right? Like logically, most of the time, just list it, right? Like if you have time, but unfortunately, a lot of them don't have the time. They don't have the capacity to wait. They like the patience, right?
That's actually one of my best questions is when somebody calls me, I just come out and ask them, "Why aren't you listing this?"
I'm the same way because like we never want people to feel like this is their only option, a cash offer. It's not like, but it depends what they want. And then our goal is to help them find the win-win scenario, right? Like what works for us, what works for them.
Sure. So just to remind everybody, we are talking about painlessflipping.com, painlessflipping.com. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes. If you found some value in what we're talking about so far, do us a quick favor, share this with one of your investor friends. If you're watching us on YouTube, a like and subscribe goes a long way. It really helps the algorithm. So, Nathan, you mentioned in this situation, you're helping your apprentice. I like that you're calling it apprenticeship because it sounds a bit more like an apprentice than a student scenario.
And the reason why we call it apprenticeship, like if you look at history, like how did most people learn? Like how did someone learn to be a blacksmith? Well, first they like were the apprentice of the blacksmith, right? They had to see how everything was done, how the tools are made, like how the fire was started. Like, and I feel like the way that education is set up these days, it's just used to scale and monetize people. Like, hey, how many people can we get in a group call? Like hundreds of people, right? Like how many people can we get into like watch these videos? Like I know I've been a part of it and I'm a part of coaching programs that like teach you how to do this, but I just don't think it's, at least I haven't seen like an amazing product that helps multiple people. I think if you really want to help people, you need to like on, I wouldn't say not scale, because maybe like you can scale and get more coaches or more people to help on specific deals that have experience. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like it's a good product in my opinion from what I've seen.
So do you, once they start your program, how how long do you, is there any kind of commitment there, or is it just one-off situations?
Yeah, it's we work with people for up to a year, and then we say after that, like we're gonna work with you forever, like until you get a deal, or like as long as you want to work with us. Like people I've worked with like years and years ago, like we're still friends, we still chat. It's not like you say, hey, don't talk to me. It's been a year, right? So yeah, the commitment for them is a year. But and that's the tough thing about building a business and being entrepreneurs. Like it's a commitment, right? And I think people, whether they believe that they're locked in or not, life happens. People are committed. 3 months in, they aren't doing the amount of work that's required. So my job is really like broken down. It's just keeping people motivated and keeping them like their eye on the prize of the what. And that's what we talk about when we get started. First thing we say is like, why do you want this? Right? Because if you don't know why you're doing this, you're probably not going to continue to do it. It's going to be too hard.
Right. Is it a 50-50 split? How do you get paid?
It depends. The apprenticeship, it costs, it's obviously an investment to just work in and get our time and get all the resource and materials. So we work with people that way. That's how we get paid. And then depending how much of the deal we need to do, right? So it's usually split like on a 30-30-30. If they're like, hey, I just have a lead that I've qualified, but I don't want to negotiate, I just want you to call it, then we would give them 30% for producing the lead. And then we would get the rest, right, for doing the rest of the process. If they've negotiated it and produced a lead and we have to find a buyer, then they would get 60 and we get 30. So it all depends on, and we all, if we're involved in the deal at all, we get 10% for the transaction process. And that's for doing the paperwork, making sure it all gets done correctly. So it's 30,
Okay.
30, 30, and then 10 is if we're involved at all.
Since the last time we talked, it sounds like your team has grown pretty significantly then.
No, no, this is something that I've like really backed into because, through doing coaching, like trying to help people do deals, I've learned that like the one to many model, it's very difficult to like really get people results. And for me, like I don't care about money. So for me, if I'm have a product that doesn't provide results, how can I feel excited about it or get like have the conviction to get more people to join or work with me? So it's basically been backed into just making a better product.
Mhm. What are some of the pitfalls that they should be aware of before they even consider getting into wholesaling?
I would say if you do not have a marketing budget or have some money set aside, then be ready to just prospect and grind until you get an opportunity. That's one, is not having the right expectations of how many leads you're going to need to produce. The next pitfall, which I would say the apprenticeship helps, is negotiating the right way with that person, because a lot of wholesalers will just continue to make low ball offers and they're just hoping and praying that they can get a deal when that's just not a very good strategy. There's the amount of people who accept a really low offer is very low. You have to
Mm.
be able to walk them through a process to understand like why they need to, like why that's what their property's worth. You've got to leverage cash buyers that to help you, through the process as well, versus just again just making low offers and just hoping you get somebody. That's a very difficult thing to do. Capitalize and get deals that way.
Yeah, that might work with land contract, for land. I hear people all the time sending blind offers for just raw land, but
Yeah.
when it comes to homeowners, you got to have a different conversation.
Yeah, it's way more emotional. I think with land, like, people aren't attached to it. They didn't have their kids grow up on in the home or whatever. It's just dirt. And I think that's why a lot of people are going into land, right? Because it is more transactional.
Mhm. Something that I had to get comfortable with early on is being uncomfortable. because a lot of the people and a lot of the conversations you're having is that there's a fair chance that this is the first time they're going to be saying something even out loud that they may not have even admitted to themselves up until
Yeah.
this point. And I don't know about you, Nathan, but I've had people crying and on the phone, and
Oh yeah.
it's almost become a therapy session as much as anything else.
Yeah, and that's exactly like why, again, we go back to this apprenticeship model, is because a lot of people think it's more of like, okay, what do you want for the house? Okay, what's wrong with the house? Okay, here's my offer. There's a lot of times when we don't even really talk about the house when I deal with sellers. We're just talking about the issue that they're having, the problem that we're solving. And then we stumble on, oh, okay, well, this is what we can do for your house. Like, and that just like, that's like an afterthought almost after we discuss like what's going on in their lives. So it's more about understanding the situation than about the house when it comes
Mhm.
to like dealing with these kind of deals.
Yeah, can you tell me, like, some of this is, it has to do with being just downright creative. You might win the deal just because you've learned something and you've been able to, I don't want to call it sweeten the offer,
Yeah.
but you're actually directly solving a problem versus them just getting cash. Can you share something like
Oh,
that?
we do many deals with people with not the best offer necessarily, but with something that will meet the seller's needs. Like, so if we're talking to someone who's a hoarder or not even a hoarder, someone that has a lot of stuff to move, and we say, okay, you have an offer at 185. Look, I can match that, or I can beat that by $100, or I can just offer 183, but I'll pay for your move and I'll help you move so you don't have to worry about it. Like that
Mhm.
would sweeten the deal. But like, why is that important? Because I actually dove in and understood and asked them, like, what is the most important thing to you outside of price? You want convenience, you don't want to have to move. Okay. Now that might be the other offer 185 might have just been the offer and they didn't dive into what's important to the seller. So I win because I actually understood the situation, right? Or timeline. Like if the seller, a lot of people think like closing in 7 days, 14 days, like really fast is what people want. Sometimes people don't want to move out fast. They want to stay in the house. So we understand, oh, you're worried about having a place to go. What if we close on the house and give you 2 weeks after, like a post possession after we buy the house, for you to figure things out? Would that work out? So it's understanding what they want versus, it's just not just offers.
Yeah, I've shared this story as well, but we've had situations where families not getting along. We've delivered furniture to the individual family members. We've helped people move to an apartment, whatever it takes to stand out. You're, like you
Yeah.
said, solving that problem.
Yeah, there's so many, and again, it always comes back to like this is a people business, right? If it was just about offers, like OfferPad, Open Door, all these companies that just like produce mass offers, like that's what this business would look like, but it's not like that.
Yeah. Then sometimes those conversations can get fairly lengthy. It takes
Oh,
multiple discussions. I mean, before they feel comfortable with you enough to share those type of details.
yeah, yeah. Like I talked to this one guy who was like a multimillionaire in Denver, Colorado, who in the very beginning, he's like, oh, I don't have to sell it. I don't have to do anything. And then later, after like 2 or 3 calls, he finally tells me, he's like, man, this has been like really hard for me. The tenants like mean and I'm scared of them. And it's like, oh, okay. So it took some time, but usually you can feel in your heart, you can feel there's something going on. And it's usually if they want to talk to you.
Well, that's another question I've used. Most people have an idea of what you do.
Yeah.
It's just like, depending on the audience, there's likely a reason you're calling. Why are you calling here today? Why are we having this conversation?
Exactly.
So you might as well wear some of this on your shoulder. I mean, it's not like you're hiding anything from people.
Yeah, and the thing is interesting is like as you dive into sales, like learning how to get better at sales, like a lot of the time it's like finding out if the problem that they're trying to solve is actually even that big of a deal to them. Because a lot of the times it won't be that big of a deal. You ask some more questions, they're like, you know what, actually, I don't really need to sell. Right. And you're not making it a big deal for them. You're trying to find out if it really is big enough for them to take action on. So, and I think that's the problem with the pre foreclosures a lot, is like it's really not that big of a problem to them yet until it's too late.
Yeah, that's a good point. That just likely still doesn't feel real to them, like this is actually happening.
Exactly.
So, Nathan, since you started your business, what was your most expensive mistake?
Man. Oh man. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, flipping was easy. So we were just flipping like crazy, and then we got caught with several flips, and when the interest rates went up, and lost a lot of money. That was the most expensive thing I faced so far. Not just focusing on wholesaling, but going into fix and flip when that wasn't really my focus. I just was doing it because it was easy. Anyway, I think a lot of people got hurt by that, but
Yeah, that was painful. The whole
for sure.
pandemic thing was financially painful.
Yeah.
So, what has been your biggest win?
Man, my win is just, man, I'm learning new things every day. And I just feel like leveling up. If I look at what I was doing 5 years ago and where I'm at now, that's how I feel good. My biggest win is just daily being self aware and noticing that this is a never ending journey of progress. I'm excited to be on the journey. That's my win.
Sure. So, as you've had these wins, do you still take time to celebrate?
Mm. You know what? I don't think so. I don't think I pause and I'm like, all right, guys, let's have a good time. No, I don't think I celebrate too much, to be honest.
The reason I bring that up is because it's one of those things that you get into a routine, and I think we just have a tendency of not taking a minute and actually realize what we've accomplished and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Over the past 5 years, look at what you've done, Nathan.
I don't take a lot of time because I'm always thinking of the next thing, right? Like we're always in that mode. Like you said, the routine of creating and developing, looking back, and that's for anybody watching this. If they look back at 5 years, a lot of stuff can go on in 5 years if you're intentional about your life and you're making decisions that are getting you where you want to go.
Mhm. Well, Nathan, this is always such a great conversation. Before we jump into the rapid fire questions, is there a topic we should have touched on here today?
I would just say for anyone that's thinking about getting into wholesaling, I'm not trying what we've talked about today. We just want to let you know to go in with the right expectations because with social media and the information that's out there, I think they try to paint everything in a great light. If you really want to do any business, be ready for a lot of trial and tribulation. It's going to be difficult, but that's how you grow. If you guys think that getting where you want to go doesn't require sacrifice, you're wrong.
Sure. Well, Nathan, if you're ready, we'll transition to the rapid fire questions and close out this episode.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
The first one is, what lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
They don't need money to do this business.
Yeah. If you can get this done.
Yeah, there's always going to be some costs.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say read more.
Would you have listened?
I think it takes time to actually like listen and get to where you really need to go.
Do you have a book recommendation?
You know, I've been studying a lot about leadership recently. I just bought the book called Leadership by Burns. I think his last name is Burns, McGregor Burns or something like that. But that's a pretty high level book. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but that's what I'm reading right now.
Sure. And then finally, what single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest impact to you or your business?
I'd say AI has been huge to help me out to save a lot of time. I love my virtual assistants, but recently I let them go because AI's replaced what I was paying them for. So it's saved a lot of time, and I think it's only going to get better.
Are there particular tools you're leveraging, or are you just using ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I'm using Opus Clip. It clips up a lot of the videos that I was paying an editor to create. I'm using all the different AIs. I'm trying a lot of them like Gemini, DeepSeek, ChatGPT. I'm seeing which one is the best. I use it to create pretty much everything with content, slides. So that's what I'm using right now.
Well, Nathan, this was just fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Again, it is painlessflipping.com, painlessflipping.com. Hope you'll consider coming back again sometime very soon.
Thanks for having me on.